If you're joining me for the first time, welcome. My name is April Hardy, and you have reached the channel that is the go-to for all things domestic violence related. If you are returning, welcome back. Last week we talked about the best way to find a counselor that's going to be good for you specifically and individually. And in that video, I mentioned that if money was an issue, then there was a couple of different options. One, you could go look at churches. That's definitely a free option for a lot of people. Some people may not want to do that though. And so another thing that I would encourage you to look into, if free is kind of your price point, is something called Alanon. That's what we're going to talk about today. So Alanon is not a counseling thing at all, nor is it actually a trauma thing. So it'd be kind of weird. Why am I recommending that here? But the thing is that Alanon is created as a support group for men and women who are dealing with the effects of a loved one having an addiction, specifically alcoholism. It is inclusive to other addictions as well. And the thing that I found when I was attending pretty faithfully is that people experience trauma because of having a life with an addict, right? And they learn coping mechanisms that may not be great or healthy, but they're what you do to get by at the time, right? And they learn belief systems and attitudes and ways of being that really don't serve them, but they are what allows them to get by in that moment. So I believe Al-Anon is an excellent resource for a lot of people. There's also something called Alateen that is available. It's basically Al-Anon, but it's for teens so that they can be able to be in a support group with other people their age. I'm going to read you a little bit because I will mess it up. Most Al-Anon family group meetings are topic discussion meetings. So in my personal experience, that means that the person that's leading the meeting, who is a volunteer, who volunteered a while ago, however long a period of time ago, to be leading that meeting, they pick a topic for discussion. And then you'll go in and you'll usually read a little bit in some of the different books maybe that Alanon has on that topic, which gives you some wisdom. And even if that was all that you did, that would be good. You know, they would encourage you to read outside of Alanon meetings also, and I would encourage you to do that too, but to be honest, I didn't much. Not near as much as would have been good for me. So even if all you do is you go and you read when you're there and you're kind of captive audience, you're going to get some good wisdom. And then after that you do some reading, like actually I believe that we would do it like we'd do a reading and then the person that read it would talk about it, like their experience with it, what it means to them, stuff like that. And then other people could comment also. They do what's called sharing your experience, strength, and hope, which means that it's not just this giant vent session. Because if it was nothing but an hour-long vent session, you wouldn't come away from it feeling any better, you know, especially if you're not the one that gets to vent. If you just go and sit and listen to somebody else vent for an hour, that wouldn't be helpful. So people talk about their experience with these different topics and any hope that they can offer, any wisdom that they can offer, how things worked out in their lives, because there are people at different levels, different places in their lives. Some people are like in the middle of dealing with an addict, right? And their life is chaos all the time. And then there's other people who don't even have that addict living with them anymore. Maybe they're not even in their life anymore at all. Maybe they passed away or they got divorced or whatever the case may be. But that doesn't mean that they don't still need to be going, because they're relearning how to cope with things in a healthy way, and they're learning how to believe things that are good for them. The biggest thing that I tell people about Al-Anon is if you stay with it for a while, it will teach you how to love yourself again, or maybe how to love yourself for the first time. And I feel like that's groundwork for anything else that you're gonna do. And if you have been in an abusive relationship, or you have been an abusive childhood with abusive parents or teachers or babysitters or whatever, one of the major results of that is shame. And shame will destroy you from the inside out. And it's very hard for you to believe that you're lovable and you're worthy if you're so wrapped up in that shame, which I promise you is something that I have struggled with and is something I still struggle with. Al-Anon is a support group. So like I said, it's not therapy, but it's a bunch of other broken people who are happy to be broken with you and be on this journey of becoming whole with you. And so in some ways, because I did trauma therapy, which was huge for me and saved my life, I guarantee it, and I did Al-Anon, and they're worlds apart as far as a lot of things go, and they're both beneficial in their own ways. In trauma therapy, you're able to do a lot of work and learn skills and things like that, but it's you and the counselor. And there's something about being in a room with other people, or I guess right now being on Zooms with other people. I haven't done this particular, I haven't done Alanon during COVID, but something about being with other people who understand where you're at, where you're coming from. They understand how you think and why you think that way and why you respond this way. And these things about you that you might tell yourself are wrong or broken or messed up, they understand it. And I mean, the counselor may understand it too, but it's just different in a support group setting. So that's why I encourage that. Al-Anon treats the disease of alcoholism. First, they consider it a disease, and then they treat it like a family illness because they recognize that it's not just the person with the addiction who suffers. It's the people around that person too. So AA is specifically for the addict. Al-Anon is specifically for the people who love the addict. And like I said, they can be people that are in your life now, people that aren't in your life now, people that you despise of now, but at one point they were in your life and they affected you. Lots of people are under the false impression that it's just about sitting around and bashing the addicts in your life. It really isn't. It addresses, I put down four main things that it addresses. One, that you're worthy of love, regardless of how you've been treated. Two, that the addict is solely responsible for the addict's choices, which means that you're not. And that goes for abuse too. The person that's the abuser is solely responsible for their choices. You're not. And then the third thing is, you are solely responsible for your choices. That's another thing that Al-Anon works on. That's also true in abusive situations, even though there are reasons. I know there are reasons for why we do the things that we do, but we're responsible for those choices. Because only when we own the fact that we're making choices and we have responsibility there, that's the only time that we have the power to change anything. If we believe that they control everything and that we have no choice, we can't get out of it. So, 3 things for Al-Anon so far, and the 4th thing is coping mechanisms that we develop on our own are often harmful. That's the 4th thing that I got from Al-Anon. So the Al-Anon program is equipped to help you let go of them and develop better, healthier ones if you're willing to do the work to change your own. I'm working on that. I probably ought to revisit some of those. So some of the topics that can be dealt with in regards to your loved one's addiction, but I just wrote down, several. There are so many more things that you can talk about, but acceptance, dealing with anger, changing attitudes, dealing with change. If you're a trauma person, change is hard because you need stability. And I totally encourage stability in a lot of ways, especially if you are a trauma person. But you're never going to be able to get away from change entirely because life is change. So learning how to deal with that in a positive, productive way It's very beneficial. Choices, control issues. Likewise with the not liking change. I have been described as a controlling person. Not because I want to control people, it's that I want to control the situations because I've been out of control for so long that I need stability. So I know I'm not the only trauma person that has control issues in that way. Dealing with crises, denial, detachment, expectations, emptiness, fear of abandonment, forgiveness, gratitude, rejection, and so many more things that you get to talk about with other people who understand where you're coming from and want to support you as you're learning how to be better. Right? I say right a lot. I never noticed that before I started doing YouTube. I want to read you guys what to expect from a meeting because I want you guys to know what to expect. So I didn't write this. I'm just going to read it to you. What to expect from a meeting. Al-anon meetings are for anyone who is affected by somebody else's drinking. If you worry about somebody else's drinking habit or if their lifestyle affects you personally, Al-anon can help you. Some people are hesitant to go to their first meeting because they don't know what to expect. I put it off for a while because I was scared. So, some things to remember when considering attending a meeting. Most importantly, Al-anon is anonymous. That is extremely helpful. If you see each other out in public, which happens, you can say hi, but you don't talk about how you know each other to other people because it's anonymous. And you don't go home and talk about the things that you heard in your group because it's anonymous. And that's what allows people to be safe to lay their hearts out there and actually get some work done. So everyone in each meeting has been affected by alcoholism, whether personally or through a family member. In the meetings that I was in, it wasn't just alcoholism. Whether it is drug addiction, alcohol addiction, sex addiction, pornography addiction, whatever, it's still applicable. Nobody's required to speak or discuss their problem, although it's encouraged. There are different types of meetings. Some may be more productive for you than others. Al-anon is not a religiously based organization, although the meetings are centered on the 12-step program, which is the same 12 steps that are the foundation for AA, and it is a spiritual program, we'll call it that, because it talks about your higher power, which a lot of people just say is God, and their idea and definition of God are different, and Al-anon is not trying to speak to that. You know, it doesn't talk about churches, it doesn't talk about religious affiliations, it doesn't talk about what your definition of God is or what your relationship is. It's not interested in that. Now, I'm a Christian, I have certain beliefs around that, but I didn't go in pushing mine on anybody else, and nobody went in pushing theirs on me. And that's the point. Alanon, like AA, acknowledges that you're a spiritual being, and there's definitely a component there that you are not going to be whole without dealing with that aspect of yourself, but it doesn't push anything. I don't think I explained that very well. I feel like the Girl Scouts do it similarly, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, Al-anon meetings are conducted under the mantra that allows attendees to take what they like and leave the rest. In this manner, meetings focus on sharing experiences and hardships rather than telling attendees what they should do. If you go in there looking for fixes, that's really frustrating because they're not going to tell you what you have to do. They're not going to say, okay, you're depressed, do this and this and this and this, and then it's all going to be better. They're going to say, well, when I experienced that, I did this. This worked for me, or this was suggested to me, but they're not going to tell you you need to do it, and they're not going to, for the most part, at least in my experience, they don't sit and hold you accountable either. So if you want to stop coming, or you don't want to participate fully, or whatever, they're going to let you do that because they're a support group. They're not an accountability partner per se. And so sometimes, like I said, it's really frustrating if you want to go and you want to get the answer and you want to know it right now, because that's not how this program works. But I think it's good, obviously, or else I wouldn't be recommending it. It just takes some time. And then that whole take what you like and leave the rest also means that what you hear and what you read that impacts you, that you feel like is important for you, then you can leave having gained that little piece of wisdom, or that nugget, or if you want to call it that. And then what people say that doesn't apply to you or your life, maybe that nugget of wisdom is there for somebody else in the room. It doesn't apply to you. That's fine. So it's a no pressure situation, which is really nice. Every Alanon has its own unique way of conducting meetings. However, many have similar outlines. So I wanted to include this part just because this will give you kind of an idea. So generally meetings will begin with a short opening and introductions. I honestly forgot that we went around the room and said our names. You don't have to participate in anything. Newcomers are welcomed at this time and given some helpful tips, such as not expecting too much too soon and information about confidentiality. Then the remainder of the meeting is spent on group announcements and then sharing stories of experience, strength, and hope. And then after the meeting closes, a lot of times members will hug each other. You don't have to do that. It is really nice when you get to the point where you can feel comfortable with that, but I promise I was not at first. And then I can remember later calling my best friend and being like, I just hugged like 15 people. Who am I becoming? I don't know. So, but once you get to the point where you can handle that, if that's something that you ever get to the point where you're okay with, it's healthy, positive touch. And that's actually really important for people also, but no pressure. Like, you can leave and you don't have to hug anybody. Like, it's weird at first. And then as you get to know these people, then you're just hugging your friends. So, Alanon groups are located in cities across the world. Many meetings take place in person, on the phone, online, so it's accessible and it's convenient. And like I said before, you can be at any point in this relationship with somebody with an addiction. So they could be in your life actively right this moment. They could be in treatment somewhere. They could be divorced. They could be deceased. Some people get into Alanon when they're with an addict, and then they think that once they're not with the addict anymore, they don't need it anymore. And so I watched some people leave, and then I watched them come back later when they figured out that I'm still crazy without the addict. Because those, like I said, those beliefs and those patterns in life, those things are wired, whether that person is around or not anymore. And that wiring needs to be redone. You need to learn better ways. And so Alanon is great for that. If you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section and I can actually respond to them. But I will leave like the 12 steps. I'm going to type that up and put it in the description box so that you can see that, but I'm not going to go through all of it. I hope that you're doing okay. I know 2021 has been kind of crazy so far. So I hope that where you are, you can find some peace while you're there. I hope that you're safe. I hope that you have hope for this year. I almost said this month. That too. If you want more content on building up your life, let me know, because I feel like there's a little bit better response to the videos that I've done on the bad stuff, on domestic violence, on intimate partner homicide, on things like that, and a little bit less on the positive, like how to find a counselor and things. But it's early in the year, so maybe that'll change. But if you want more information on that and less on the building yourself up part so far, let me know that too, okay? Because the whole point is to serve you. So, what do you need? What do you want from me? What can I help with this year? Until I see you again, stay safe.